Owner on record, not of.
Joe, I'm gonna get right to you guys. Quick tutorial. This is gonna be an investment training talking about contracts. I'm gonna share my screen and give you tidbits and advice regarding the investment world. Let me put the share screen. And here we go. So go ahead, Joe. What was the question?
So it's not owner of record, it's owner on record?
Owner on record. There's people that put owner of record, but owner on record. Because that gives you a little out, but that could have been an out where it's that they didn't record the deed and I put the wrong seller. And you want to back out of the contract. Hey, I can back out. Aqua's not the owner. I'm the owner. I bought them from a week ago, but the county didn't record that deed yet. Usually when we close, one of the reasons that hold you from flipping a deal fast enough is how they record the deed. There's some people that like to take it in manually, and that takes longer, and not record it electronically, which is quick. But even if they record it electronically, depending on the municipality, it takes longer for it to show.
Where are you finding the owner on record?
The owner on record, you're just putting it because
Where are you finding that? How do you
Miami-Dade property, Miami-Dade.gov. You can find public record. And I'll show you the quick way in a little bit how to go over that. So you want to make sure you put the right seller and of course the right buyer. Now, one of the things you have to make note is when you put the right buyer, of course you're going to know who the right buyer is. Make sure you're putting the corporation that's buying it, you're buying it. Also, if you're working traditional, of course, the right buyers and if they're on it. Now, a lot of questions people say, oh, what if I'm buying a mortgage and the wife doesn't qualify or the husband doesn't qualify and it can't be? You got to only put the person who's going under the loan. They could, at the closing, they can have a deed ready to add the wife onto the house, but she's not on the mortgage. You want to make sure, you don't have to worry about it. They're not on it. You could record a deed and put that person on it. Make sure you put the address, located, sure if you put Miami-Dade or Broward County, make sure you put the folio. You can mess up on the address. Another thing, this is all technicalities. You could have put 5757 and it was 5756 ultimately. That's not illegal. But if you take this to court to fight and say, I want to enforce this contract, but if you had the right tax ID and the right property description, they'll say, hey, listen, no. They might have did a typo, but you knew well, and you knew damn well that it's the right property. But if you don't do that, you can shoot yourself in the foot. Big thing on the contract, make sure a D on REOs and stuff, you're not going to really have a big problem where people are like, you're like, oh my God, I really want to keep everything in this beat up house. On your traditional side, remember, like the washing machines, no, the dishwasher included. I mean, the dishwasher included, but washing machines and stuff like that are not included. Or the washing machine is not included, so you got to make sure you put it on there. So if you have a traditional client and you put an offer and you didn't put washer and dryer, they don't have to give you the washer and dryer. There's been so many stories that happens that you guys have. If they weren't going to include the washer and dryer and there was like some awesome washer and dryer when you buy it, they got to put it here. Or they could have like, an incredible tea they wanted to take or something. I mean, I doubt somebody would want to take the tea, but if they don't want to include that, you put it there. Now, this is important on the investment side of things. I'm going to stay with the investment side because if I do both, you might get confused. Important to put your purchase price, escrow amount, depending on where the location of the property is, different escrow agents. We have one that's nationwide, we have one that's local. Sometimes one of the local ones are too busy, so we don't want to send everything to one place because they get bogged down too much. We like to sometimes you want to, as an investor, you don't want to always put all the huge escrow because it's at risk. Sometimes something happens, you don't want to buy it. And also, and I'm going to say this because you guys are traditional agents as well. A lot of times people think it's the 5% that you're going to put down for a loan or the 20%, and they make this escrow too big. And you jeopardize that escrow with these guys. Now, when you're doing financing, you have an exit route with the finance contingency, but you don't want to put that much escrow. When you're doing the investments, depending on the price of the property, 100, 200, 300, $2,500, 5,000, $2,500 is the rule of thumb here for InvestPlus. Now, if there's an exception needed to be made, you just get one of the managers on. They say, hey, this is an incredible deal. We have to put 10,000 in escrow. We'll do it, definitely. But 9 times out of 10, they see 2,500, they're okay. 1,000 is a little suspicious to people. So if you see somebody sending 1,000 escrow, it's suspicious. Now, unless we're buying in Chicago or New Jersey, that the house is $30,000, you don't have to put that much money. You can put 500, 1,000. You see all these seminars that say, yeah, buy a house for $100 down. Yeah, because if probably buying 10,000, 15, 20,000 on a house. It makes sense if you put 100 or 1,000 or something like that. Never do 100. We sometimes, to give them peace of mind, if we have inspection period, say, hey, listen, we want this house, but just so you be at peace, we're going to put an additional $5,000 into escrow after the inspection period. So at that point, you can put more. Look, it's $2,500, but if you really want 5% of the house, which is usually what people say, we'll put it after inspection. We go there. Here, always acceptance. You want to make sure. Here, you want to make sure that you put like 2 or 3 days from today. So today's Monday. You want to put like 2 or 3 business days, maybe Wednesday and Thursday. On the investment side of things, you want the person to feel the pressure to accept an offer in a certain amount of time. For investment close, put 30 days. Never end it on a Monday, and never end it on a weekend, of course. End it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I don't like to end it on Friday because everybody's ready, like, to go home. Even though people stay late, if you put it on Thursday, God forbid they have to carry over, they have it for Friday. You know what I mean? So if you put it for Friday, it has to carry over, you have to wait till Monday. So end them on Thursdays, Tuesday, or Wednesday, out of my experience. Sucks not to get funded. And especially if you close Thursday, that doesn't mean you get the money. Friday, let's just say you get to 5 o'clock. Oh, sorry, the wire cut off. You got to now wait till Monday. If you close to Thursday, your money's going to be there for Friday. And that's the same, it goes the same way for traditional real estate. So make sure you guys do that. I'm going to go through this contract pretty quick just so we can get to the deal finding portions. But occupancy and post occupancy is very important. If you're working on traditional client, never, not even if you have the buyer or the seller, try to always shy away from post occupancy. Even if you have to extend the closing, like, hey, seller's not going to have his stuff out for 2 or 3 more days. Let's just close the day and you'll move. No. 10 out of 10, there's 7 horror stories. They couldn't find the house. They couldn't find the moving truck. Now they stay 3 weeks later or 2 months later and they're still in the house because they couldn't find some mission. Don't try to do it because then you're the one that gets called 100 times a day to find out they moved on. Assignability. This is big for the investment side. We put that we may not assign this contract, but there's 3 different. You may assign and therefore release yourself from any liability. So if Tati wanted to assign it to me, but then I don't buying it, then she's not responsible. This is the one that you should never check. I mean, they let you do that. You don't even want to insult somebody and check that one and send an offer because they're like, what do you mean you want to release your liability if you assign it to somebody and they don't close and nobody's responsible? So the one you have to do is this one. If you're going to assign it, assigning on the investment side is key. We wish we could assign everything because if not, you're going to have to pay double closing costs. You sell it to me, I pay 2.5, 3% in closing out, 2%, whatever it is. And now when I sell it to Dali, I have to not pay another part. So if I could just get a $10, $15, $20,000 assignment fee and I have to pay closing costs, and you guys close with each other, I'm just making an assignment, I'll do it. When you go over $15, $20, $25,000, you may say, George, why am I paying you $20,000 to assign it to her when I could have just sold it to her for $20,000 more? And then if you have an enforceable contract, you can force them to close, but you'll have a headache of like, oh, I don't want to sell, I don't care. You've already enforced on the traditional side, moving a person out of the house. So I know now, personally, that let's just say he doesn't want to sell, but 6 months later, I was able to force it. Whereas if you were going to do that, at that point, we would close on anything over that because sometimes we have people that don't mind if we assign it for $150,000, $200,000. But that's because they're savvy investors, not when it's a real homeowner. You got like a listing of a real homeowner in there. They're in my car, but I don't have my car here at the dealer. But I have everything, the whole folder. I don't have it here. I do have it though. If I get my car today. So it's important. Like if anybody in here knows properties, you tell me, George, I have an investor. They want us. I want us. They don't care how much we make. Listen, you could find a property that's worth $200,000 and you got it for 20 at a probate auction tax. You could tell me, George, I want to assign it to you for 120. If I find the value, I'm like, okay, make your money. There's investors out there, fake investors. Any investor that's worth his weight in salt tells you, oh, I don't want you making that much money on me. No, they may even say, hey, let me get a better deal. But if I was okay for 120 and all of a sudden you tell me, hey, it's going to be an assignment, okay, I agree to it. I still have $80,000 of value in my mind, right? Let's just say it's worth $250. You're making $100,000. I don't care. There's some people out there, and even though there may be like people with money, they just don't have the right business sense, and they'll tell you, oh no, I don't want you to assign it for me to. But anyway, I was like, if I see the value, I want it. Send it to me. Send me that, you know. The financing, make sure it's cash at the closing. Even if it's hard money, it's still cash, in case you guys didn't know. Hard money is still cash. All right. Okay, when we're making an offer on the IQP side, I don't know if this is a selling contract or a buying contract. Let me just make sure. This might be the acquisition one. If we're selling it, since these deals are hard and far in between to come by a good deal, when we sell these, the buyer has to pay all the closing costs. Like, we went a long time that we're paying our closing costs, but no, you want this deal, you got to pay all the closing costs. Part of the deal. There's not a lot of deals to be out there, so either you pay it or somebody else is gonna buy it. So that's why you see this closing costs to be paid by seller. This is a selling contract, so that's why that's scratched out. Normally, whatever side of that you use, oh, this is a good self-story. There was a deal. Everybody always tries to paint themselves as perfect. This is the deal that the lesson that costs you money is a lesson you remember forever. That's a tested and true method of learning something. Let it cost you something to find. Thank God it didn't cost me, but I learned it because I already in my mind thought I lost it. I haven't to this day, outside of an auction property, which was out of my control, it was an auction as part of the deploy, lost an escrow for my client or for myself on an acquisition. But I got lucky one time. So the seller's company put them doing title, but this was them they were trying to be slick. So the property in Fort Lauderdale, the property, I told the guy, and this is your life lesson. Told him, hey, we're not gonna move forward. They got, hey, listen, don't worry. The agent to agent, hey, brother, listen, don't worry, whatever. I never really sent it in like electronically. I was just like, it's an investment deal. We put escrow, but it was just one of those, okay, cool. I was new, and it was a verbal. I ended up sending the release and cancellation, of course, to get the money back from the title company. And all of a sudden, the seller didn't care what the agent said that I told him, and the agent even said it to him. So it would have been one of these things that had communication. The agent was on my side. Hey, my bad. Still, the seller wanted to go after the escrow. And if the seller goes after the escrow, it doesn't matter who the title company is. They can't release those funds because now that fund is allocated for that. But there was a big problem. So this is like a week or two after closing already that they're wanting the escrow and they didn't want to release it. They left this blank. And if they didn't give it 15 days prior to the closing date, they gotta, like, let's just say they wanted to enforce and keep that escrow. If they didn't send me the lien search 15 days before the closing date, that's like if it wasn't gonna happen. Since they didn't send me anything, the title company that was doing the closing, they didn't send me not one piece of documentation. Hey, your closing date is this. That's why you'll see when somebody's going after your escrow and they know that they want to keep your escrow, they'll act like nothing's going on. Listen, your closing is scheduled for the 15th of next month. Here's your closing docs. Where do you want to have it? They know for sure you're not buying it. They're going to do all that. Every single thing is going to be needed. Okay, your closing's here. Oh, here's your lien search. Here's your title search. They'll go. So you got to be careful. So here we have this box that seller should designate closing agent, but normally if whoever picks in Miami, buyer chooses title. It's customary that the buyer chooses the title company. In Orlando and other places in Florida, the seller does. So, but here we put it that the seller chooses the closing agent, which is the title company, and normally it would say, and pay for the owner policy, but we scratch that out because that's why we say buyers pay for the closing costs. That's important. This is important too, special assessments, especially in traditional or when you're buying a condo or in somewhere that can improve. Seller should pay installments due prior to closing and should pay the installments due after closing. For example, if one's buying an apartment and they just made an amazing pool or they did an assessment, which is the bigger issue, you're gonna have to pay that he's gonna have to pay that. I mean, normally this is what it's selected. Like here, let's say they did an awesome pool. He would only pay that amount because he was able to enjoy the pool, or that's the normal, but we put it here. You're paying for everything. And just in case they ever say, oh no, there was a $10,000 assessment, no, you have it here, you have to pay it all. They can't just say, hey, it's on payment 4 of a $10,000 assessment. You've already paid $4,000. Now you got to pay the other 6. Like, hold on, I just bought this. So that's what protects us. So you got to make sure you protect yourself there. And I'm giving you like real life examples. Everything else here, like disclosures. This is a big one. Now, this is a little, we put 0 there in the contract because we want people to have 0-day inspection. Why you want 0, especially on a cash deal? Because there's a lot of people that are buying these property. I don't want to waste my time and give you 10 days, you back out 10 days, 10 days, 10 days. So when you have 0, you know it's a real buy. When we know we really want a property, we'll put 0. Because you put, okay, even if a bomb dropped off in this house and I know how to do a complete renovation, at least I know it's going to be maximum of $100,000 to fix. I'm getting it at $200,000, but it's worth $600. Okay, well, worst case scenario, there's a $200,000, $100,000, $300,000, $100,000 property, even if that's a ceiling property. So when you're ready to do that, and you can say the worst possible scenario, you do that. One of the things that you could, we don't have that luxury in investment sales is for traditional agents. This is something I could say. Anybody, if you leave it blank, it's 15. Everything is the same. But if you ever wanted to back out of the deal, this is like a lesson for you guys, is like you still have the loan commitment part where you can back out because the loan can give you the denial, right? If you don't have the money, right, or you can't finance it, or there's something you can't pay, you'll get a denial from the bank. Now, before you could wait till the closing day and do it. Let's just say you did a 45-day closing, you get 30 to 45. You have 30 days on a standard contract. You never made a difference. So if you went to inspection period was 10 days and passed it, okay, cool, whatever. You don't have no more inspections. You still could back out of that deal if you get a denial letter from your mortgage company. Now, if it passes day 31, which you'll see in the loan commitment part, oh, it's on the top. Let me show it to you guys. It's important here that you guys note this. You know, there's been so many agents that have had to deal with this. So you got to be careful. You have, if left blank, 30 days. This is the loan commitment. Your buyer has to make the loan application up to 5, but loan within 30 days. If you need this blank, normally you should always try to put 45. If you're closing, it's in 45 days, put 45. Now, the listing agent can say, no. If you want to be aggressive, don't put 45 because you'll scare people away. But if it's a rookie, you got to gauge what it's a property so hot, you want to make sure everything is there. You want to put little extra escrow if you need to be. Or you may want, the asking price is 400 grand, you may want to put it at 403. But most people will send it at asking, but now you send it 3,000. It's a hot property, this comp one. But let's just say this was a finance client, and this is a good lesson that I hone in on everybody. If you had 10 days inspection, but you still have 30 days of loan commitment, it's financing your back. But now if it's cash, which is, we're talking about cash, there's no loan commitment, you're done. You pass the inspection period. And remember, it can't land on a weekend or on a holiday. So right here, we did that. Final through the contract, and we'll get to the investment side. How to look for deals, how to source these deals. All right. Seller. All right. We put a little disclaimer here. I want to go over why. When somebody buys a property from us, and this is why I tell you, it's important that you use this contract when you're making the offers, or this disclaimer. Here, what happens is, so these are all the things that people try to say they're going to get you out of the contract. They want to get out of the contract. So this is the buyer will take the property as is. That sometimes we sell properties with liens and violations. Sometimes if you do that as is contract with traditional or investments, but there's liens and violations of the property, you have until the day of closing to back out of the contract. And we've lost a lot of escrows that way. Like, not us losing, like people wanting to back out a deal. And we're not in the business of taking escrow. At least personally, that I've known over 1,000 properties we've done, in the last 5 years. If we've kept 3 escrow, that's a lot, honestly, because that's not our nature. We want to close on these properties. But there was times that it was a client really being bad in business. that we're like, you know what, we should keep the escrow. And we didn't have this clause. And nope, title was dirty, so they could back out and we couldn't keep the escrow. But this would have protected us at the beginning, saying that they understand that it could be fines, it's their job to find out. That's what all these auction companies do. I mean, you know, how many forms do you sign on a property on Hubs a year? How many docs? Ton, because the banks put this, every other possible denial way you can get out of the contract, they put in the contract. We don't put that many, but we just put it. You know, if anything arises from the property, sometimes a lot of times you could also, if you put owner of record, right? And like if you're selling a property, if I'm selling to you a property to you, there's times that we don't own the property. We have equitable interest, equitable interest in the property. So this was letting us know the buyer, the sellers in the contract to purchase subtrade, and the duties are continue upon seller and closing obtained prior to this transaction. So 2 reasons. One, first and foremost, one is buying the property for me, and the bank that I was buying. Let's just say we usually will, you know, like the properties I gave you guys today, those 4 properties, we own them outright. So we don't have to. It really doesn't matter if we had that. But let's just say I was buying that property from Janessa, and Juan was buying it from me. Janessa's deal and my deal and I doesn't go through. I never get title to the property. I never buy it. I'm like, Juan, listen, my bad. But then Juan could go and say, no, I moved out of my house. I moved the money around. I took it out of my 401k. I paid a penalty. I borrowed money around at high interest. That, you know, and he could sue me because I didn't let him know that I'm buying the property and it's under contract. He could sue me for specific performance. Now, it would be hard to say, hey, you know. The bigger thing than that, on the flip side, is if he wanted to back out of the contract, he has the right, because I really wasn't the owner yet. I had a contract with a bank or a seller, but I can't say I'm the owner of record. I can't sign for the owner of record because I'm not the owner of record. But that right there allows ourselves to protect ourselves in the investment world. Also, this is something big. A lot of times when you buy these properties, you have to have a seller disclosure, and we don't know what's up to these properties. We just had a deal with like a $60,000 lawsuit where they're saying, oh, we knew it was on septic and we never told them. This is them being fraudulent after the fact, saying that we tried to deceive them, even though the property had a violation for the septic. But we didn't have this. Seller is aware the property been purchased as is. Purchase aware that seller has never occupied the property and makes no warranty on the condition on the property or any repairs that would be needed. Seller would not be held that. If we would have had this, almost an $80,000 law is still there, but that would have been, sorry, you read it, you signed. So this is why these disclaimers are so important. And boom. And then here, purchase agrees that in reference to return the pilot, container return of deposit, listen. This is allowing you, because this is what could also happen. That's to protect ours. And what happens is, even if they're wrong and they want to lose escrow, and this is also in your tradition, it sucks. They don't have to sign the release of cancellation. Then you're going to have to proceed to an escrow disbursement order and then go through 6 months of litigation. But this kind of like says, hey, if there's an event that if it's no fault of the seller, escrow gets released immediately. We don't have to wait on you 2 weeks. Now, it's only if we don't close and it's on your fault. Like, oh, you know, you didn't have funds, you can do it. So that protects us as well. Then we don't have to wait 6 months to proceed. Or another thing you can't do, it's like, it's a gray area where you can't. If I'm fighting you for your escrow, like I can't come after your escrow. You can't sell it and have a claim for the money. If you sell it, then it's like, hey, that's void. We've had issues that could go both either way. So this protects us as well. So that's that. Any questions on the contract?
Look at that.
The addendums are on the contract. Oh, actually, you're right. That's a good thing. Let me show you that. That's one. Let me show you the other one. This is the acquisition one where I was showing you guys. Let me cast it now. It's the same contract that we have there. This is the acquisition one. Let me show you guys. Let me just show you the difference on acquisition. Let me get there first.
There's nothing checked.
No, I showed the wrong one. Hold on, let me get it.
I was just saying, is there anything specific that needs to be shown or not?
Procedures. Yeah, we have this. Let me show. This is the acquisition. I don't have it. Let me just show you the acquisition checklist. Whenever you get a deal, so you'll have acquisition, property, escrow amount, reviewed by Fernando/Courtney Cater. Title company has this property added to property board. Lender for this market. Has any property review or take a picture, inspect information. These are all important things, and these are going to save your life. But on the whole deal finding process, it's going to be like, Joe, hey, find a deal. Okay, let's write it up. It's going to be me a lot more of the times, especially with you guys, or it's going to be Fernando or George San Juan. Now, they may be more readily available where I have a lot more people sitting in front of me, and I can't really, sit there. And then you could also, you'll see on Podio, you're going to be able to see, who's brought the properties, the showing instructions, stuff like that. So that whole process, the first couple of times, are going to be a lot of questions. Hey, how do we put this deal? But it's pretty simple. Once you do the first or second one, it's on autopilot. Any other questions before we go into the deal finding? Let me end this one here. All right, perfect. I ended it.